I asked you guys the knits you would most want to set on fire, and you told me. So much to burn. I'm Michelle, this is my so-called handmade life, and here's how it works. I talk to you, ask you questions, I talk mostly about knitting and crochet, or whatever, and I encourage you to answer in the comments, and then that shifts what I speak about in the next episode. So we're having a back and forth here. All right, I just put this on for the first time. My finished raw tee. I didn't really want to watch it burn, but let's just take a look at this just steam blocked edging. Not bad, not bad. Now I'm looking at all the crap on the couch and I'm thinking that looks really bad, but not bad. But you know how when you put something on after ironing it and you wear it a minute, it flex, you do stuff and it starts to curl? We'll see. I went ahead and let this curl a little in back because it looked weird not curling. So throughout this episode, I'm just going to be checking it out and seeing what it does. And I guess I need to make sure I move very naturally through it. Gosh, you can see all of my garbage. I'm gonna, hang on, let me just pretend for a minute. Remember when you were little and you'd say, play like I'm not a mess. Play like I'm organized. Play like I'm an adult. Okay, so there's something cool coming all through this next month. Probably this will come out on September the 1st, maybe the 31st, but all through the month of September, my YouTube channel and Christie Archer Designs YouTube channel will be doing a Simply Irresistible Socks knit along. So she has now 8 patterns out. She just released 3 more, and I'll put up pictures around me. So this is 8 patterns in this collection that all are what I call heelless. They don't have the traditional heel and gusset or an afterthought heel. It's like a ribbed heel that expands easily over different foot sizes, you know, within reason. Would make it a great gift knit. And so all through the month of September, we're just going to be doing it. Hopefully, I'm encouraging all of you to try it. Her patterns are reasonably priced. And I held a giveaway for 3 of them to someone who commented in the last episode. We may even do a live cast on party thing tomorrow. I don't know how to do all that. I mean, it's a big deal for me that I did an Instagram reel, you know, the other day. So I'll try. I've complained about live streams, how it's really chaotic. The co-hosts interrupt each other a lot, and then they're so busy reading comments that it is very disjointed. I will try not to do that. So I wanted to say the winner of the giveaway is Lori. And I've already contacted you by now on Ravelry, Lori, and asked you to just message me the 3 Simply Irresistible sock type patterns that you want, and I'll send them to you on Ravelry. I hope you'll all join in. It's the whole month, and these should knit up so fast, because think about what slows you down with a sock. It's always having to think about decreases, doing the rib, the gusset, the heel turn, not doing the heel turn. That's the part that slows you down, right? I don't know how this one works because I haven't actually dug into the patterns yet. I'm saving them for tomorrow when I cast on, but I think these are going to be really speedy knits. I'm looking forward to doing several of them and challenging myself to use maybe different materials for different types of socks than I normally would. I'm wondering how striped socks will perform with this rib, because you know your stripe gets interrupted with the heel and gusset, and with these it doesn't look like it does, and I'm wondering how that'll work when it's expanded on the foot. So that's something I certainly want to try in the month of September. So the things I was thinking, I know for sure I want to do, this is my little project bag that Katinka made for me, and I told you about it last week. And Christine mentioned that a a good place to get project bags with no guilt is to go to like a thrift store. And I've never thought of doing that. I do see lots of neat tote bags at thrift stores. I've never seen like the typical project bag zippered pouch look there, but that is a really good idea, and it's kind of guilt-free. But honestly, occasionally I just tell you all, we're all in a different place. We have different limits. This is a guilt-free zone. You don't have to feel ashamed for buying. I just knew that the day before I received this in the mail, I had set my limit on spending and I wasn't going to budge. And then someone gifted me a project bag, and it's really sweet. So the first sock pattern I want to try from Christie's Designs will be her Simply Irresistible Mohair sock pattern. And it's a fingering weight yarn with mohair. And I've never used mohair for a sock. It feels almost ridiculously like luxurious. This is some Wool and Vine from ages ago on her blitzed base, and it's the Reflector colorway. And I think I'm going to pair it with this like lilac color, which I think is Stranded Dye Works, but I'm not quite sure. I'll flash it if I figure out which one it is at the bottom of the screen. But I think these will be, let me make sure my is getting it. It's kind of evening light right now. I think these will be fun together. I think that the colors will be subdued some by this solid colored or, you know, tonal mohair, and I'm interested to see what kind of sock this will be. The pattern has a kind of it looks like a slip stitch detail, which I think will kind of make the variegated interesting. Another one of her designs that I'm interested in trying is Thistle, and I thought I would use this. It's Passion Knits yarn and it's Nouveau Riche. I thought I would use this. This is a very fall color. And it might make even a bit of a micro stripe look, but I thought I would try this with the Thistle pattern, which I feel like would work well with a variegated yarn. This isn't wildly variegated, but to me this looks kind of micro stripe-ish, so that's what I'm thinking. I mean, literally, I have a ton of single skeins here and there that could work for those. Solids would definitely work because both have a textural pattern. I also want to do the worsted, and I haven't decided what yarn I would use for her worsted version of the Simply Irresistible sock. That one looks like a house sock. I actually would like several pairs to wear, you know, when it's cold this winter. So those are some of my plans so far. I have some Lion brand sock ease. You know, they brought that back. I think they used to have Magic Stripes sock yarn, and now they have sock ease. And I have a couple of skeins of it, or balls, but I can't find them. See, like this would make a really good worsted sock. This is Campfire colorway. It's DK by Jinx Yarns. That would be fun, but I do not know where my sock ease is, so please join us. I have well, in my notes I wrote it's a groovy prize. I don't know why I wrote that. Okay, so it's groovy and it's for 2 different winners. Christie will be having drawings too on her podcast, but I will give away 2 on mine, and these are available to people who join the knit along and post pictures on Instagram. You'll just kind of go into a big hat, all of your photos to be drawn randomly from. And so 2 winners will get these prizes that I have, and I'll give them out at the end of the month on my podcast here. For 1 prize, I want to give away any one of her Simply Irresistible sock patterns, and this yarn, this is Wool and Vine Yarns blitzed base, Enjoy the Silence, which was kind of one of her classic colors way back when, you know, like a Depeche Mode thing. And it was really popular. I don't know if she still dyes this, but I kind of see this as like vintage Wool and Vine, and I think it's kind of cool. So it's actually a thing that, like, it's not just stash diving just for whatever. I really looked for things I actually like, and it's a little meaningful to me. So any one of her patterns and this yarn to one winner, and the other I will give any one of her shawl patterns and enough yarn to make this. This should be enough for any one of her shawl patterns. I know she has an ascot too, but her shawl patterns typically call for like 470 yards of main color and then a contrasting color. And so this is plenty of main color. This is Madeline Tosh Merino Light, and the colorway here is Beautiful Liar. And this one is also Tosh Merino Light. I'm sorry, it's Twist Light, and it is Purr. And I think these look they look really nice together. What do you guys think? And then you can choose any one of her shawl patterns and I will send it to you. So those are my little prizes. This is motivation for you to join me. I'm going to knit these and I'm going to enjoy knitting the socks without, you know, comrades, but it's always fun when we do it together. And definitely post photos of what you're making. Kind of make sure when you do it on Instagram, you tag her, tag me, but also use that Simply Irresistible Socks Cal hashtag so that we can find your post. So I literally waded, I'm not kidding, waded into the stupid yarn closet for that. So it cost something for me. We might do that live cast on party. Like I said, it will be on Christie's channel if we get it all figured out. I don't know. I may have reached my threshold for new tech this week. I did my first reel and I was driving. We had to go out of town for 2 days, which kind of threw me off. And I was driving and I was like, I'm going to put that fake ad for a sock palette cleanser. Well, but you can't do the whole thing. So I had to cut it into 2. And then just doing it while in the car and the car's bumping, you know, and it was so burdensome. Like, I don't know, if I felt like I had to do that every day for my business or something, man, what a burden. Speaking of burdens, knits you guys want to burn, Christie said that her My Favorite Things sweater #1, she did not like the yarn. It was burdensome to work with, a real struggle, and I don't think she's finished it still. That's one for her. Virginia is working on a super bright orange crochet gift blanket, and she just can't seem to tempt herself to finish it. What do you guys do to reward yourself to finish something, especially if it's a gift? Jess talked in the comments of last episode about a reward system really helps her stay focused because she always needs to have something to work on that she's interested in. But, you know, not everything in life is interesting. So when she's doing those, she has different tricks for keeping her mind distracted with something that is interesting. I know a lot of us will work on something we don't enjoy while listening to a podcast or something. I'm picturing Virginia wearing sunglasses, sipping a glass of wine with classical music playing as she powers through this Day-Glo orange crochet blanket. Maybe you could just crochet in the dark like I do and screw things up, Virginia. May Jo said it was an anchor sweater for her. That Petite Knits pattern just wouldn't be obedient. It would not do what she wanted it to. She felt like she misread it, and then she got through one sleeve and it just didn't fit right. She tried fixes that didn't work and hasn't even finished the other sleeve. She frogged it, and it's since just been frogged to be used for something else. I think it's good that you at least made the decision to get rid of it. It doesn't just sit in the corner in a basket, half finished, staring at you, mocking you. Not speaking from personal experience here, but it's good to just go ahead and be done with it and make the decision. Katie had an evil chenille version of the Ripple Tee that was complicated to work with because of the chenille and ended up too big. And then she washed it and the dye ran. and then she washed it and it ran, and then it ran again. And finally she decided to put it in the washer and dryer since it could handle a little shrinkage, and it came unraveled in the dryer and she had to repair it. And when she was finally done, she was too trauma triggered from it to even wear it. So she's probably going to bring it to Goodwill. So be on the lookout. If you go to your Goodwill, you might find some trauma triggering knits in your Goodwill. I cannot imagine finding something like that at Goodwill. I would be so excited. Usually when I find something handmade, now I live in Texas, there's not a lot of wool at all. But when I find something handmade, it's usually really been through it, it's usually really old. There's not a lot of new hand makes that I find. And it's often kind of trashed because of the age or mishandling. Adina said nothing she officially wanted to burn, but she did talk about a tricky sock cast on, and just a tricky sock pattern that was so complicated she just abandoned it and started another pair of socks and didn't finish, and that counts, Adina. She hasn't finished one pair yet all summer. Karen tends to just say, you know what, if I hate this, I'm not going to spend more time on it. I don't want to waste the emotional energy on this knitted thing. I'm just going to give it to someone else to finish or donate it. And recently she had a knit that just wasn't working for her. I mean, she had finished it. It just wasn't doing it for her, so she cut off the bind off. It was like a tubular bind off. She cut it and frogged the whole thing to save for later. Zen master. I tend to have a vendetta against knits. Like if it's something I haven't figured out and I really want to figure it out, I do, on some level, I must like the puzzle of it or the challenge, right? This was getting frustrating, but I don't even know that it's the ripping back and redoing that was driving me crazy. I think it was how splitty the yarn had become, because splitty yarn is just this big tangle to work with. I think if it hadn't been splitting, I would have probably not minded. And then when I was on the verge of just giving up, you guys gave me a bunch of good ideas, and then it was like fun to try each one out because it felt a little interactive. So sometimes I'm driven to finish something, but I'm just joking. I didn't hate this knit. If nothing else, it gave me a really funny, silly video idea. You wouldn't believe though, I made that video. It was 2 minutes long and it took me all day to edit that stupid thing. And my husband is I'm like, man, I just want it to look low tech. And he's like, low budget. And he's like, well, that's good, right? Because you did it. And I'm like, no, it's not the low budget I want. I typically can let something go. If I realize, okay, this is beyond my abilities or it's going to take a level of investment I just don't have. I am much better at letting something go. But I think sometimes that has to do with having a little free income. If I had no other yarn but this right now, I would have to finish it. My mind would be like, you got to work on that. Or let's say I'm refinishing a piece of furniture. I will be way quicker to say, whoa, uncle, I need a professional to do this. So it kind of depends on the project. Lori mentioned that the chic poncho by Dondo Designs, she mentioned it a few episodes back, and she said she almost trashed that poncho. She had finished it, it looked great, and then she found a drop stitch right by the lace border, and she was like, Ma, that's it. I can't fix this. But she gave us all a really good tip. She brought it to her local yarn store, Bliss, and the owner fixed it for her, probably pretty quickly. And it saved it. And of course, she told us a few episodes ago, it is one of her most worn designs. She'll bring it to a restaurant and throw it over whatever she's wearing, even in the summer. And it gets worn a lot. So that's a nice lesson. I've never thought of giving one of my knits to someone who could fix it for me. But that's probably because I never really knew anyone locally that did that. I do live near a yarn store now. I could try something like that if I reached that point in a knit. So it's a good idea. Rosamond is frustrated right now with a a wrap called Saber, and that's one from Nidhi Knits. Nidhi's designs they're so beautiful, and I love her Instagram feed. She has one that looks kind of like a patchwork. It's probably not even one of her more well-known designs, but it makes me think of patchwork, like quilting, and I always think of that. It's something I want to knit as a stash buster. But Rosamund is working on one, and she realized she cannot get her needle into these neps to make the proper stitch decreases, and she would have to rip back the entire previous row and redo all of those nups, or like bobbles, and it's like 500 stitches. So I think it's in timeout right now, and I don't blame you for that, Rosamund, at all. But I was thinking about Jess and her distractions she uses when doing something tedious, and maybe just brew you a nice cup of tea, put on something you like to listen to, or some good music when you've made peace with the fact that you're going to have to do it, and I wish you luck as you do it. Or sometimes if it's something pretty mindless, if I do it while talking to people, it makes it a lot more fun. Like I'll weave in ends sometimes while having a conversation. It takes no real thought to weave my ends in. Oh, she also mentioned that she didn't mind seeing this sweater like all summer because she said a lot of people are slow makers, and it's a little unrealistic for someone to have a finished object, poof, knitting content in each episode. I think a lot of Instagrammers and YouTubers knit super bulky projects because they are feeling the need, the pressure to have content. So clearly I'm not worried about instant content. So that's what you've got. And I'll tell you now about my raw tea. This is Lone Kjeldson, if I haven't already mentioned it. Lone has a bunch of great patterns. I'm going to talk to you in a minute about them, but you can see the edge I tried. Let's see, make sure I get that in there. This was a strange edge. Eunice tipped me off to this. Rita Koch, I think, is how you say the designer's name. I linked it last episode. I'll link it this one in the description. She had a edging that's no roll for stockinette that you do at the beginning of a knit, but she said you could simply reverse it and then do a bind off row right after it, and that's what you see here. You see, let's see if I can get, this is the edging, and then you see the bind off right underneath. So it's a little bit more pronounced than this cast off and pick up seam here, but I think they really look good together. I think it worked. And then on the sleeves, I think it looks good too. Now, here at the neck, possibly I did not pull tight enough. I think it's just too wide, which leaves it rolling, and I'm okay with a little roll. I didn't really want it to roll all the way, but you can see it's starting to roll all the way. That's what I was wondering, if just, like using this, moving my arms, wearing it, like when I sit, the edging puddles up, wondering if it would just start rolling up on its own, but so far so good. So this is our second check. I don't see any real rolling. I do see. These are saggy jeans, man. I look sloppy today. My sloppy room and my sloppy jeans. So I tried I think actually I counted up 11 different methods, and I'm going to put up a blog post soon, like probably next week, where I talk about the different methods I used with some links to how to do some of them. And it's not like, they all worked great for me. They didn't. But, this rolled a bit, and when I ironed it on the lowest setting for linen, and I steam blocked with the iron, it hasn't rolled since then. So it's possible some of the other fixes I tried wouldn't have rolled. I really feel like the just plain I-cord though would have. So that's something to keep in mind. The next ones I would like to do from Lone are the Notes sweater, which is a 2-color marl. And it's kind of pieced together, like parts of the sweater are more black than white. And then, like, say the front of the sweater is more white with a little black marl. I really like the way that looks. These are all very, unintentionally from me, graphic, very contrasty patterns. But I just realized that's the ones I'm most drawn to. Glad is like a 2-color striped top, kind of with a lot of positive ease like this one, but with an interesting like a vertical stripe, a stripe that runs this way. So perpendicular to the stripes of the front and the back. This just patch of like, almost like, not a saddle shoulder. I'm not really sure. I haven't looked into the pattern. I don't know if I've even purchased that. But I really think it's a neat look, and again, very graphic. So that's one I want to make. Mrs. Kjeldson, it just looks like a fun overall striping Fair Isle design. And I like the little shorter sleeves on it. It has a very vintage look to me. And then I think the favorite one for me is Pearl Willing. It has the look of a classic striped raglan with thin stripes. But the neat thing about it is the way the raglan edges look, with parts of it being stockinette and other parts being reverse stockinette. I just think that is the neatest looking play on a classic raglan striped sweater, and I just love stripes. So it's been a while since I've worked stripes, and I'm feeling, you know, the urge for it. So that's one I would like to make. I've been seeing some other new designs that I'm interested in, and I wanted to tell you before I forget, because honestly, the amount of designs coming out every day is almost overwhelming. If I hold on to it and say, oh, I'll talk about that later, it'll be one of those 50 designs I discuss episodes. You know, I mentioned Tanya Skolazob in the last episode, her interesting ways of self-publishing some of her patterns. She has a new pattern out called the Visual Illusion Jacket. It's not a for print pattern. It is on Ravelry. It's actually a really affordable price, a little lower than others, and I like it because it makes me think of some of the intricate, almost geometric looking brioche knitting designs that I've seen with a solid color and then a gradient contrasting color. It's like that, but it's crochet. It's not brioche. It is just a crochet stitch, the way she works it, and it's geometric. It's got lots of squares. And it's a great way to show off a gradient. And so you could do something like a spin cycle, but I feel like for this, you could do something like a Lion Brand mandala, or I don't know if it's mandala by Lion Brand, but they have like ombre. That would work really well with this. So I wanted to point out that pattern to you if you hadn't seen it, since she's sort of fresh on my mind. Do you guys ever buy Making Stories magazines? I think they have them digital now. They do have them digital, but I've been getting these since they were first doing standalone books, and now they're doing the magazines, and I'm consistently finding really interesting patterns. I really love both of these that are on the cover. And I just wanted to show you, because I don't know if they've hit they're on your radar. This one right here is called, the whole theme is Heirloom. This is Ursula by Susan Kartanen, and I just wanted you to see, I really like the way, I think I like everything employed in this pattern. So you've got little baubles, cables, and then I like the ribbed ends here. I don't know if this is going to show with my doofy lights here. I like that. And I really like Connected. It's a cable v-neck, and it's got that like preppy type v-neck tennis sweater styling, but the v-neck is, the ribbing is a bit thicker. So it just has a different look, and I like that. And this one is by, we will see, Julia Exner. Tweed Dale by Jennifer Brow. It's this yellow and pink sweater. And you can see some detail shots of it here. Here's the one. This is the one I really, really like. It mixes color work, drop shoulder, which I really like drop shoulder designs, and varied texture. Old Love. Makes me think of Eric Clapton's song. Anytime older couples would like kiss in a movie, my husband and I would go, oh, look, I have no voice because I'm allergic. Oh, love. Except I can't go low anymore. So basically, old love, like a robot. But we would say, oh, love. Just the beginning of the song. Anyway, I just love the texture. You can see some of it here. Talk about old, my wavering voice. It's a nice, like a sporty crew neck with a slightly cropped design. I feel like it's pretty current. And cables down the sleeves. I've seen patterns that do this before, but I do like the combination of the neck on this and the crop. And another shot of Brackendale. I gotta get into some cables soon. I'm jonesing for the cables. I wanted to show you guys that though, because it's just something new. And I'll forget, and I'll never show you or talk about it until I might knit one of them. Okay, now I've never done I don't know if I've ever done a mystery knit along. I think I started one and didn't finish his life. And I'm not going to do a Stephen West mystery knit along anytime soon. But I loved the thumbnail, his little cover pic for his newest mystery knit along. I'll just flash it here. It makes me want to knit it at some point just because it's so sci-fi looking. I love science fiction. I love reading science fiction before bed. I've just started rereading Dan Simmons' Hyperion series. And I mean, I have such Google brain. I forgot most, I mean, I know the basics of the plot, but I forgot most of the characters and a lot of what happens. And I just thought, you know, this isn't good. This is one of those signs that it's not just age. Like, I am online too much. I'm getting too much info that doesn't matter to me so that I can't remember things I actually enjoyed. So I'm rereading it and I am enjoying it. I remember I did like the first book a ton. I felt like by the end of the series, I didn't love it as much. So I don't know why. I literally don't remember, but I was rereading it and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot so much of the stuff that's good. I also forgot, like, oh my gosh, the sex scenes. And there's a few sex scenes in this book that are so ridiculous. Have you guys found that science fiction books, when they have a sex scene thrown in, they are just goofy? Oh man, and I think all the ones I've ever read were written by men, and so they're that kind of goofy. Except, like, I'm embarrassed to say I read Outlander. I mostly finished it because I was waiting for the sci-fi to start. That is not a sci-fi novel. And that was written by a woman, and it was just as bad to me. It was just, I just busted out laughing. And it's not nervous laughter like a prude. It was just like, this is so silly. But man, I was reading this book and I just started laughing out loud. And we were driving and my husband's like, what? I was like, why on earth would you use the word moist 5 times on one page? And whoever found that sexy, anyway, sorry. I had forgotten that too. Apparently, I forgot all the important details about this book. I know I need to unplug, and that's part of why my brain is being crowded out for what it can remember. So I was talking in the last couple of episodes about feeling pressure and rush, even when there's not really a reason to rush or feel pressure. And we've been talking about our personality types, and it just has had me ruminating and thinking about maintaining my boundaries in this world and what is healthiest for the type of person I am. A few more people chimed in on their personality types, and Susan assumed that her score would have to be different from what it was 7 years ago, but she took it, and sure enough, she's still like extroverted, intuitive, feeling, judgment, with an A for assertive. And it hasn't changed. And I asked, do you think that it's inaccurate? And she said, no, it's me. I just figured it had changed because, seasons of life change, and you have more time to develop aspects of your personality that maybe you didn't before. And that is one thing I think is interesting. Like, I mentioned Jess said she has this intuitive, introverted, thinking, judgment type of personality that kind of requires something to be thinking on, a challenging thought, something that interests her brain to kind of feel balanced. And so one way she handles the things in life that don't do that is multitasking or creating little rewards for herself, making something out of something that's not interesting. And she has a description of how all these things might be happening at once. And I think to some people that would look like chaos and a nightmare. I do know some people, when I see them doing that, I know, oh, they're heading for a burnout because their personality type can't handle that for too long. I think for me, I do multitask to a point, and I definitely do rewards to make myself enjoy something tedious. But what I've found is that one of my multitasking things lately has been listening to stuff online, and it's that input of constant voices is not allowing me to do what I used to do with a boring chore, which was let my mind wander and solve problems and think of new things and create more. And it's been tiring me out. So having said that, I wanted to mention that Karen took her test, and she's like, she just knows that her personality has changed greatly from years ago when she was younger. Life changes, and being free to develop her feeling side has shown her that she is a feeling personality type. And I thought that was interesting because I do believe people change. We can change, and sometimes the way we come out might be somewhat affected by our environment, even in a negative way. So I was thinking about how my score, I'm not saying everything goes into this Myers-Briggs test, but there are so many aspects of my personality today that are the same as when I was a little girl. But over time, like say that judgment aspect of my personality, like I have this template I kind of put over life that helps me decide right and wrong, valuable, unvaluable for me. I think that was greatly affected by certain people in my life that I felt like I had to tiptoe around to not set them off. And feelings of unworthiness, like I was in the way and unworthy. I was extra critical with myself, extra judgmental, and maybe, what's the word? That perfectionism that people who would say they have my personality type have. It was like an overdrive. It was not healthy. And I definitely know that who I am today, as I near 50, I do not have that same sense of perfectionism. Like, this was kind of a fun little vendetta, getting this right. I know it's just knitwear, but I am so much more relaxed on myself and, of course, other people about important real life things. So my personality type may be the same, but the nature of how it works, I feel, is infinitely healthier than it was when I was younger. My early home life was just great. But certain, influences and people in your life can have a huge effect on how you develop. And just as an aside, because that's what I do, just imagine to a young person how having one person who's balanced and allows them to grow to be the person they're meant to be, what a difference it can make to you finding out who you are and having a wholesome, healthy ability to express that. Like, I just wonder, without all the stuff in between, would I have always been more chill like I am today? Would I never have been super hard on myself? I don't know, because this framework for living, this kind of moral judgment framework or whatever that I have, it's not based on a person that was very negative toward me in my life anymore. It's based on something greater, and definitely has room for failure, and it's okay. And so I just was thinking about my mother. She was a good mom because she let us be whoever we were going to be. I never felt pushed to be something I wasn't, and I never felt like she was living through me. I mean, she indulged the fact that I did not like all the stuff she liked, but she tried to indulge me as much as she could. I mean, yeah, she made me wear dresses to church on Sunday, but she totally understood that I didn't like it, and it was just like, that's like, it was part of worship, I guess, to wear itchy lace. And the rest of the week, she would let me wear what we called play clothes, which was basically just shorts and jeans and stuff. She let me be me, and she never shamed me about being, who I was. I think she got a kick out of my brother and I, where we weren't like her exactly. I'm sure we have a lot of her traits, but she got a kick out of our weird sense of humor, and I think she liked watching us grow. Anyway, I was just thinking what a difference the touch of one person can make in healthy personality development. And it just makes me think, it's mostly with your children and young people, siblings, people in your life long term, or maybe a partner that you have the ability to do that with. I still want to try and be somebody that, my family or acquaintances even can say, I feel really good when I'm around this person. I feel appreciated for who I am. Thank you for sharing that, Karen. So here was the things I've been feeling, like this low-level pressure, like that feeling like, wasn't there something I was supposed to do? I feel like I had to do something, like I was leaving something undone or hadn't done something well. I thought maybe it had to do with aging, like maybe I'm disappointed because my back went out so bad and I'm like, I have back pain? What is the deal? But I don't think that was it. I couldn't focus as well. Like I was saying, my memory was bad on books I had read. And then when I would sit down to read, after about maybe 30 minutes, it's like an alarm in me went, ding, it's time to stop. Kind of like when you train yourself to nap and not go too far into sleep. It's like I had retrained myself. I used to could read for hours straight, but something in me felt like, time to come up for air. And it wasn't normal. And then it was hard to get focused again. I was off doing the obvious we all do, like reflexively checking my emails and stuff. I was feeling a tendency to browse things I could buy online more, which isn't great. I don't need stuff. I don't want to add more stuff. So that's often a little sign that I'm online too much. I wasn't making as many things, like finished things. Of course, part of that was this tea's fault, right? But I wasn't spending as much time on creative stuff. I was just online. Now, keep in mind, doing these videos, I did do that stupid fake ad, which was 2 minutes of all day editing. Maybe that's what I've been making. Making these is making. It's creative, but I was doing less making than normal. And then I found my emotional state would be heightened by the things that I was watching online. I might just have an unsettled feeling after being online, like overeating. It's just too much. I felt like it was something very general happening to me, not circumstantial. Like I just need more quiet personally. And after all that reading, and I shared some facts in the episode before, or the one before that, that we used to have a lot more rest time in our lives. Physical rest, sleep for 11 hours, and mental quiet and rest. This is what I did for at least 2 weeks, as much as I could. We did have to go out of town, and that messed it up a little. I quit going on YouTube without a plan. So it's kind of like people talk about not over purchasing. You don't buy yarn unless you have a plan for what you're going to do with it. That never worked for me. But when I get on YouTube, I have a thing I want to look up and research, or a person I want to watch. I don't just watch whatever's suggested and continue to the next thing. I quit doing that. So I would, if I found myself doing that, I would just turn it off just to see. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're searching for more quiet in your life, you got to do what you got to do. I also made time to read for at least a half an hour every day, but longer if possible. I started taking a Sabbath, like I mentioned in that book, and you don't have to be religious to take a day that you rest. We all used to have at least one day off a week. A lot of people don't now, and I don't care what day of the week it is. It could be Saturday, it could be whatever. But Sunday is a good day for me because I don't have as many responsibilities. And I just take the day to stay offline if possible. Now, like if my husband wants to watch a movie, I'll watch a movie with him, but I'm not going online. If I'm listening to anything, I might be listening to a book or something. I just mostly get outside and walk, read, and really physically rest my body. I don't work out either on those days. It's only been like 3 times I've done this, but it's been very helpful. And here's what I noticed, okay? So 2.5 weeks of this, maybe it's been 3 weeks, I've noticed that I have better focus. I can read for longer periods of time, and I don't have that automatic alarm go off like, oh, it's time to stop. Check your phone. That's not happening. I don't watch YouTube as much, but when I do, I come away feeling more satisfied, like I watched more interesting things. I've had some space for thoughts that if I hadn't made the quiet space, they would not have come to me. So some problem solving, pretty deep connections, like dealing with why something still hurts so much from the past. I feel like it's an inordinate amount of emotion I feel. And then also about forgiving, that I thought I had forgiven, but there's some things that go with forgiving, like not bringing it up anymore, that I wasn't doing, even if it was bringing it up to myself. And I thought, I don't know if I'm ready to let go of some of that. And so I just think, okay, so those were not easy things to think about. They presented a huge challenge for me, but I like a challenge. So I was actually really encouraged because they're kind of breakthrough for me. And just since those things came to my mind, practicing them I have felt more peace about those issues. So all that's to say, had I not had the quiet space to think and let these thoughts kind of develop, or, in prayer, answers come, I don't know. I wouldn't have that extra measure of growth. So that's been a good thing. I've also had more energy. More energy even though I am sleeping the same amount. The only thing that has changed is I'm not online as much, specifically listening to stuff. I had energy to fertilize all the plants, which I have been putting off doing. I did it and watered them all. I had energy to go through my pantry. There were things in the very back of the shelves that we have just avoided, right? And then when my son comes, he like crams all of his products. He likes certain foods and he just crams them in, and no one wants to dig in the back of the fridge or the pantry. I did both. I cleaned out my fridge. I cleaned out my pantry with stuff from 2020. it looks good and organized. I have things in the nice little containers, you know. I don't know where that energy came from, except, I mean, I've even added more exercise for my back, so I like should be tired, but I'm not. So I just know it's from this. It's the only variable that's changed. I also started organizing some of my camera equipment, but that requires a little more DIY. Oh, and I finished this tee, and I started my big blog post on all of these edges. So that was quite a bit that I don't know if I could have done otherwise. So that's what kind of has come from my little experiment with being quiet more. And of course, a perfect thing to do when you're being quiet is to work on your projects, knitting. I wanted to show you some things I finished. And of course, I don't have my sock blockers. Okay, well, I showed you one already in my goofy ad that I made up, but I finished both of these little scrunchy type socks. And when you can see that where the magic loop, where it broke for the needles from one side to the other, that doesn't look hot, but when I wash them, that'll be fine. I think these are really cute and they fit good. I did the Smooth Operator heel, Afterthought heel, and I did 64 stitches. So this is a size medium adult, I think, because I just like the cozy feel of a little extra room. And it's Patton's Crochet tourmaline stripe and a little bit of Regia Perfect cinnamon brown type color. That's one good thing off the needles. I told you we were going on a trip and I needed something easy I could do in the car. I ended up just reading because I can focus now. I ended up reading instead, but I did buy stash for this. I did another purchase of Mandala from Lion Brand Sasquatch. I liked that baby blanket, the way it's striped so much. I decided to make a really large afghan from it. And I'm just going to have it to work on here and there. I feel like it'll be a really fast knit. I mean, crochet. This is literally all I have, and my thing fell out. But I'm thinking 1 to 2 rows in each shade. Like, you see each of these colors, each one is broken up into 3 or 4 depths of shade. And I'll have probably a row for each. You don't notice it when it's in the cake, but as it works up, you can see, like, this is all the blue. I tried to put off doing this. I was like, no, I'll just use scraps from my other mandala stuff and everything, but they were on sale with Lion Brand or actually Joanne, and I just really liked the way that worked up. That was unusually satisfying for me. I might show a picture of how it looked. I gave it to the mom and she just had the baby, so she was really excited for it. My Tobago bag. Now, I've watched one of the videos that accompany this pattern to help you through it, and Tony calls it Tobago. So, Tobago. I might forget and say Tobago. But I began it. I did not know how to make this shaping. I didn't understand the directions. I did all of this in maybe an hour. That's super fast. I'm not proficient at crochet. So this pattern by Toni Lipsey, who has her own hobby yarn line out now. Have you ever used hobby yarn? Or I heard someone call it Hobie. I don't know how to say it. Hobby. I don't know. These are the colors I'm using in Lion Brand 24/7 cotton. But I've been on the hobby site and it is good. Like, it's good prices. So I could see how it would be super tempting to buy something like this. They have ombre and color changing yarns. It would be so tempting with some of their sales to get like, oh, I'll just make another blanket and another blanket. It actually looks really good. Oh, she has so many good patterns, and I'm excited to finally be doing one. I haven't started the crochet shirt, but I felt like I could handle this until I get this cowl going. So 1 hour's worth of work. Not bad, huh? And the video made it super easy. You could probably watch her instructional video and figure out how to do the whole thing. I decided to make these concurrently just in case my gauge were to change. It will change relatively at the same time for each one, and they should be about the same size. However, right now, I'm so new to crochet that my tension style is like hold on for dear life grip, and it's probably pretty tight. I don't know though. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't actually compared this with the gauge it calls for in the pattern. I'm just using a size 3.5 millimeter hook, but I'm excited. So both sides of the bag, I'm going to make them basically at the same time, and I really like these colors. I like these two, and then my next will be the pink color, the orange color, and then I'll finish up with the main color, which is the ivory or cream. I think that's going to look really cute. This is addictive. Like Katie, you were saying you think you need to do one. You really do. I mean, any worsted or DK weight yarn, really you could do any size depending on how you want your bag to be, how big you want it to be. And wow, it was fast. But you have done more crochet than me, so you probably wouldn't even have trouble with some of these. And like one of the stitches is a Tunisian stitch for Tunisian crochet, which I've never done. I don't have those kind of crochet hooks. Do any of you, have you done Tunisian crochet? And if so, where is a good place to find hooks for it? I don't want the cheapest of hooks necessarily. You know, like in hobby stores, clover needles are really affordable. And I like that about them, but the join just doesn't work. It slows me down big time knitting. So I can appreciate affordable, but I also, you know, something that won't have a crummy join. Y'all give me some recommendations on Tunisian crochet hooks, because I think eventually I will try more of Tony's patterns, and she seems to like specialize in that type of crochet. Okay, let's check. How's it looking with the roll? Oh, I see some roll. I do see some roll happening from the way I was sitting. Let's see in the back. My saggy britches. It's not the end of the world. Sleeves still look good. This is rolling about as much as I expected. It's rolling a little more than it was, but I'm just not going to iron something every single time I wear it. I did want to know though, are you feeling a need for more quiet in your life? And if so, how are you getting it, or how are you going to get it? And what do you do in your quiet time? That's it. Basically, I'm telling you, what are you doing watching a YouTube channel? Turn this off and go be quiet. Yeah, there's some rolling. It's not terrible though. Look, I shook it right out. I shook it right out. That's not too bad. Yay! It worked. I do love you after all. I won't burn you.